Have you ever felt the weight of constantly saying yes, only to find yourself overwhelmed and disconnected from your true self? Today's guest knows that struggle all too well, and she's here to share how she reclaimed her voice and her purpose. Welcome to Life Size Voices. My name is Umer Farooqi, and on this podcast, we uncover the insights and missions of today's most inspiring authors. Today, I'm joined by Natalie Southwell. She's an author, speaker, and the founder of The Essence of a Woman. After years in corporate leadership, Natalie found herself burnt out and disconnected from her true purpose. Her book, The Dangers of Ignoring Your Heart's Whispers, is an honest look at what happens when we neglect self care, and more importantly, how we can reconnect with our inner voice. Natalie, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. I'm certainly happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate the offer to really come in to share my story.
Absolutely. Natalie, I like to dive deep into the books that the authors that I meet publish, not because of the author itself, but we were talking about this before the call, but because of the authentic aspect of the authors and their stories.
Hmm.
And with your story, because we've worked together for a long period of time, I've realized, and my team says this as well, you're probably the nicest person we've ever worked with. The way you
Aw.
carry yourself and the way you communicate has just been so amazing. And we've learned so much from working with you that for me, this podcast was just mandatory for me to do because I knew I could learn so much and I knew my viewers could also learn so much from your story. But
Thank
I'd just like to dive deeper into what inspired you to write this book, and was there a defining moment or personal experience that lit that fuse?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. I found myself, I had gotten to a place of evolving, healing. I felt that there was something deep in me that needed to be expressed. And I didn't know how to express it before because, to your point, I was overwhelmed, I was overworked, I was at a place of just true burnt out. And when you're at that place, it's very difficult to even share, to even know what steps to take. I was stuck. So I found myself not really enjoying work anymore. I was at a place where I didn't even want to talk about it. I was in pain. I think I made mention in the book that I had attended over 98 meetings in 2 weeks, and this wasn't a series of once a month or twice a month or whatever. This was ongoing. I thought there would be a reprieve, and there wasn't. And the type of leader that I am, I give myself truly to my work and as well as to my team. And so I had about 75 people reporting to me at that time, and it was just enormous. And it was during the pandemic. And because I am such a people pleaser, I think when you talked about the introduction of the book and me saying no, not being able to say no, or people not being able to say no, what happens is you lose your identity because you're so busy saying yes to everything. So if they needed something, could you do it, Natalie? Yes, I can. Can your team do it? Yes, we'll see how we can do it and we'll execute in this fashion. So there was no saying no. There weren't any boundaries. I didn't know how to really advocate for myself. And so I felt a sense of responsibility or duty to write my story, to share it. And I just didn't know what angle to really write that story or to really share. And so during this time of escape or evolution, I decided to just sit down and to pen my thoughts. And so I had started journaling, and journaling became a place of healing for me and a place of recognizing the thoughts. It was how I was able to bring my thoughts from my mind to actually paper and to see those thoughts. And I just sat down one day, and the defining moment was me just really saying, "Okay, let's start writing." And the next thing I knew, I started writing, and I was at 10,000 words. And then from there, I just kept going, and I was unloading, yet trying to make sure that the angles where I was coming from was also a duty to help and to serve, but to actually help people understand how I got there and also what tools and strategies I could use or they could use to help them get themselves out of situations where they feel that they are overwhelmed, stressed, and unable to really find their way.
Hmm. Yeah, and I really resonate with the people pleaser aspect of it because I believe when you're building your career, your main purpose, especially if you're part of a larger organization, is just pleasing the people around you, saying yes to everything, because that's how you or that's how we're told you go up the ladder. But the
Yeah,
reality is that setting boundaries is so much more important because, like you mentioned, you feel overwhelmed, you get to this point of burnout, and then especially if you're doing something that could be monotonous or is something that isn't really what you're interested in doing, you just lose
yeah,
interest so fast that it messes with your mental and physical health. So,
yeah.
with your story, do you think publishing it and sharing your story ties into your overarching mission with your company and the work that you're currently doing with your speaking and coaching?
Absolutely. I believe that the book serves as a catalyst to the work that I'm doing, simply because it talks about fear in any area. So, fear in any area will trickle down to other areas of your life. Fear will affect your decision making. It will affect your confidence. It will affect how you approach certain things because if you're afraid to say the right thing or say the wrong thing, fear of being perceived incorrectly. So, absolutely, the fear. One of the things that I recognize with people pleasing is the fear of saying no. Like you're afraid to tell them no because you feel like that no is going to disappoint them. And so I had to recognize that no was not negative. No is not a word that should be viewed as something that would negate, a positive reflection. So I had to learn how to be assertive, and I share and I teach others how to be assertive in the workplace, as they're leading their business as well too. Because I work with a lot of people now who are very much invested in not being so much in corporate and climbing that corporate ladder, but to also have the confidence and the courage to lead their business and to go out and meet new clients. It's not easy to start a business and to do things that's uncomfortable. So absolutely, the book is the catalyst. It is the apron. Like you wear that book as part of my coursework and my teachings.
And as somebody, I think because I've worked both in the corporate world and started my own business, I do believe that starting your own business is significantly harder than working at a larger organization because they have systems in place. When you're
Yeah,
starting your own business, you're starting from scratch, and there's absolutely nobody to tell you what to do. There's nobody that's showing you, okay, so this is how you develop new business, this is how you retain that business, and then this is how you generate more business. So it's just this constant cycle. I call it the hardship cycle in my workshops, but it's just this problem that all entrepreneurs face. But eventually, if you stick around for a long period of time, you do figure it out. But like you
yeah,
mentioned, you have to get really uncomfortable to get to that point, and
yeah.
you find that success in that discomfort. So I really do like
Mm,
what you said. But with your mission, with your coaching, speaking, and then now this book, what is the key idea
yeah.
that you'd like people to learn from the book?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say the key idea would be understanding that fear is bondage. It's like torment. When you're afraid to step out, if you're afraid to get started or to continue the business when someone, you send out a meeting and nobody shows up or nobody signs up. I mean, if fear says, okay, you're not good enough, or maybe you don't really have what it takes, I would really like to make people understand that that takes courage and to be okay with no one showing up initially because it doesn't discredit your value in what you have to say or what you have to do or what you're presenting, not allowing that fear to shape a person's decision to the point of being stagnant and not making progress. So I really believe that fear and getting it uprooted, which is what I really teach, is how to uproot that fear. And really, the way you uproot it is to understand who you are and understand that the love of God has for you, because perfect love casts out all fear. Meaning that um, when you understand that God wants to see you successful, and you have someone that's in your corner, it helps you to walk and tread in a place of authority where, okay, just because maybe you didn't sign up for this course or this master class, or you didn't sign up for my book, or you didn't feel my thoughts or my conversation was worthy of your ears, but there is a person that my voice is will resonate with and for. And so you just have to allow the understanding and the lack thereof of fear to really make sure that the fear is not leading you to a place of doubt, but is leading you, the love of God is leading you to a place of purpose, knowing that you uniquely born, you're uniquely designed with a purpose that no one has but you. And there is someone that is aligned to hear your voice. So that's what I would say.
I love that. And I think it's something that everybody deals with. Fear is probably the driving factor for most people not doing what they want to do. And
Yeah.
it's all about showing up at the end of the day. I think a lot of my mentors, it's been consistent with majority of the people I work with and the majority of the people who mentor me is, Umar, you just need
Hmm.
to show up. It's just about
Hmm.
showing up. You need to give your 100% every single day. And that's
Hmm.
the only difference between a high achiever and a low achiever. It's not
Yeah.
me being smarter. It's not me having a better business model. It really comes down to showing up. And
Yeah.
the biggest, another one of my clients, she calls it gremlin. The biggest gremlins we have is fear. And fear is stopping us from achieving what we really want to achieve.
Yeah.
So, I really do resonate with that. What do you think is your life philosophy? You've done so much in your life. You've led this amazing career in the corporate world. You then pivoted to launching your own business. You're also an author. I know you do speaking as well. There's so many different things that are going on in your life, but do they all tie into one philosophy?
I don't think so. That's a good question. I don't feel like they tie into one philosophy. I think there are many different angles you can take. I really believe that good decision making is probably the cornerstone to the philosophies that I have. Because when we talk about fear and we talked about how it affects decision making, I find that people who don't process the impact of decisions, and what I find is that the people that continue to just go down that path of familiarity, because even though they've been able to get out of the trap, and even though the trap doesn't hold them too much, it is those people that don't realize that if they actually stop going down that street, that path, that they will never have a mind shift. So I equate with fear and decision making. I kind of tie those in, and I think really my best work is understanding how to make good decisions without fear, without feeling comfortable. Because I think you made a point of it about when you're afraid, you stay comfortable, and growth is being uncomfortable. And so, good decision making sometimes require you not to be comfortable, and it requires you to weigh the impact. I have an analogy that I use. It's called the pain deterrent method for good decision making. So pain, PAIN, the P stands for pause. To really think about, wait, do I need to make this decision now? What is this decision going to lead me? I feel like I've been down this path before. I've already done this. And so you decide to go down this path that seems or feels a little bit differently, but you look at, oh, I didn't realize that this path has some detours, and maybe this detour is a different route. It's like a navigation that's leading you, maybe not down the same path, but there are multiple ways to get to the destination that you're trying to reach. And then I is, what's the impact of me staying the same? What's the impact of me making a change? Evaluate what happens when you're in those decision making moments. And then N is the necessity behind it. What is the reason for making this decision or not making this decision? So when you use the pain, the analysis, the impact, and the necessity behind decision making, it helps to, what I call is, to make decisions where you are happiest. So then it leads you to the be happy framework, because you've done the process, you've done the work in terms of taking the pain out of this decision to now this be happy framework where your decisions make you happy, not today, but tomorrow. So the things, if I'm afraid of something today, it's going to affect my tomorrow. If I step out of my comfort zone today, then tomorrow I'm going to see that there's growth there. There is new opportunities. There's strength that I didn't realize that I had in certain areas. So I would say that's my philosophy: is understand the pain behind decision making. Fear is usually the root of that. And then start making good decisions, and you'll have a better future.
Wow, I love that framework. And I can remember back when I was running my second company, a lot of my decisions were based on what I was feeling in that moment. So they were very emotional decisions. So if something else
Mm,
had gone wrong and somebody came to me and asked me a question, or asked me to decide on something, I would make that decision based on what I was feeling. But the
Yeah.
reality is, in most cases, it was a wrong decision because
Mhm.
12 hours or 24 hours after I made the decision, I'd sit there and I'd regret it because, wow, I'm
Mm.
not feeling the same way. So I really do. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can learn from that framework. Um, at the end of the day, when we make decisions, especially as entrepreneurs, it doesn't just affect us, it affects
Right.
everybody around us. And we
Yeah.
need to be cautious. We need to be extra cautious. When you're in the corporate world, when you make a decision, yes, it affects the people around you. But as I
Mhm.
mentioned, there's so many systems in place that it allows you to make the wrong decisions. But as an entrepreneur, you have to be extra cautious and you need to be, at the end of the day, it's all about impact, right? Your
Mhm.
decisions make an impact on your clients, your staff, and all the people around you, and more importantly, your reputation. Because if you don't
Yeah.
have a good reputation as a business person, then very few people that would do business with you.
Yeah.
But Natalie, thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful speaking to you, and I think our viewers will learn a lot from what you've shared with us. I really did like the pain framework. I'm going to ask you about it after this call. I'm going to write it down in my notes. But I hope everybody enjoyed this podcast. And if you could just share with the viewers a bit about your business, where people could find you, and then where people could buy your book.
Absolutely. First of all, again, thank you so much, Umer, for having me on this podcast. Thank you so much for allowing my voice to be even shared to your users. Where you can find me is my website is essence, ESSENCEOAW.com. I can also be found through the social media platforms, through LinkedIn, through Instagram. I can provide all of that to Umar. Umar can share that as part of his notes in his write-up. But you can buy my book from Amazon.com. It's The Dangers of Ignoring Your Heart's Whispers. My goodness, if I would have known that years before of ignoring that voice and the pain associated with ignoring those nudges and those promptings, I would have made a lot less mistakes and had a lot less pain to go through. So that's how you find me. You might see me in some workshops. Just be on the lookout, and I'm all around.
I'm looking forward to those. Thanks so much for your time, Natalie.
You're welcome. Thank you.